One of the absolute most common questions we have is how much does a crown cost? That is such a difficult question because it's kind of like how much does a new car cost? Am I going to go buy a Pinto, if you can still buy a Pinto new, or am I going to buy a Rolls Royce? They're both cars, but they're completely different in how they're made, how they hold up, how they look. All those factors are different. So a crown has different materials that it can be made out of. The least expensive crowns could be made out of a base metal that has a lot of nickel and copper and zinc and things in it. Those are materials that, especially if you're a woman, there's certain jewelry that you can't wear because you get a rash or reaction. Same thing happens to your gums if you have one of those lower metal crowns placed in there. You can have a high noble metal crown that has a lot of gold and platinum and silver and palladium in it. If it has those high noble metals in there, it's a lot more expensive, and a lot of times the cost fluctuates with how the metals cost out in the world at the time. You can have another material that's called zirconia, which happens to be the #1 crown made in the world at this moment. That is a milled piece of white metal. You can have some that are made out of all porcelain. You can have some that are made out of a combination of all those, some that are made out of resin. All those different things are factors into how much a crown should cost. As you move forward in the mouth, as it becomes more visible in your smile, those crowns are more difficult to make. They're more difficult to match your natural shade and make it look like a natural tooth. By default, those are more expensive crowns than they are if you had something that was on a back tooth that nobody would ever see and you just want to be able to chew with it. When you are looking at all these different factors, it also depends on the laboratory that's making the crown. There are great laboratories and there are okay laboratories, right? And you're going to get what you pay for that way. If you're a quality dentist and you want the best result that you can get, something that you're going to be able to stand behind and be proud of that you've given that to that person as a crown, you're probably going to use a higher ended lab. That's going to add cost to it. So in the United States right now, somewhere between $1,400 and $3,000, something like that is about what a crown is running. If you look at just the crown price, there's also something to be aware of. There may be a secondary procedure that's needed in order to restore your tooth. Sometimes the tooth is so broken down that we have to build up the tooth just to have something that the crown can grab onto. And that's a secondary procedure called a core. That may add a few $100s to the whole thing. So you've got the price of the crown. If needed, you've got the price of the core, and that whole thing is really what it's going to take to restore your tooth. And remember, you get what you pay for.